Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
It's no secret sports fans have an unquenchable appetite for reading and talking about their favorite teams. And Brian and Brett are leveraging these tribal passions with Score Sports. And Score Sports is the first and only social media platform that's created exclusively for the sports fan. For starters, Brian, how is Score different from the other social channels that fans have been using sort of to discuss and just talk about their teams?
Yeah, I think part of the answer to that question lies in the specificity that we are just sports. We cater to the fans, we cater to the sports enterprise, whether it's a Brett Favre or a Bayern Munich. We've really built, at a core in who we are and our DNA is really solving the problems and bringing balance back to what really is an unbalanced environment for the rights holders, for the athletes, for the sports franchises. And then in doing that, because of the partnership in nature, it creates an environment that is more interactive for the fan.
And I know one of sort of the core things that you guys are doing are this sort of direct engagement. And to bring it to Brett, what value does that have to the athlete, the more direct engagement with the fans, not having to go through the middleman of traditional media?
You want to answer that?
No, it's yours.
I think we were just talking about this backstage. We were talking about a lot of things, but social media, advertising has obviously gotten astronomical. And through social media, I think at some point in the near future, that's where it's all going to be. And for a player, obviously playing well is your best bet as far as long-term monopolizing things. If you're not around, you can't advertise. And so there are agents, and there's agents to agents, and so on and so forth. And I think social media will be the avenue in which you can bypass a lot of that. Just from a merchandise standpoint, say a goalie makes a great stop, and he wants to sell his gloves afterwards. There's a big market for that. He can do that through Score. The clothes that you wear to the game, that's kind of your pregame ritual. You post that on Score. Maybe you auction it off for a charity of your choice, or your deal with Nike or Adidas or Audi or whoever. You work out a deal through Score where you monetize that part of your brand. And I just think that I'm retired now, so I'm kind of it's
Over
not
the hill?
I'm over the hill. Correct. But I think that's the trend that we're going to see more and more of, and I think it's a good one.
Well, I know specific to Score Sports, Brian and I were talking about, I think two core words are transparency and partnership. Can you talk about the partnerships that you have with teams and players and sort of how they're sort of being built within the Score network?
Yeah, and those are the key themes I think that we're really centered on is the genuine partnership approach that we take to things, and then the transparency, because the world is so out of balance for these folks and for teams and for in sports. And it's not just sports; it's every one that's out there that has a brand that they can that's got value. And so our commitment to that is at the core of what we do, and we work on developing tools and across our platform and features that really feed that. And partnership being the economic piece, the business side of it, and then the transparency is in the business model itself, and then the data. The other platforms that exist give you this much of a look into a thin line look into who your fans are, where they are around the world, et cetera. And with the partnerships that we strike, we give a really deep access point that they aren't getting elsewhere.
So from the fans' point of view, for people that haven't checked it out yet, can you talk about some of the stuff that you're doing specifically, like on the site? What can fans expect from it? I know there's been some one-on-one chats with athletes and stuff like that. What would a fan get when they come onto Score?
Yeah, it has all of the social hooks, I call them, that you would expect. like, post, follow, share, repost, comment, those things which are fine. But then we're really at the product from a product viewpoint, vantage point, we're really trying to find how can we make it more interactive and what can we do that gives people an experience that is more engaging and better than they can get anywhere else. One of the things we did last fall was we dropped a fully integrated chat platform on top of the social network, and then we added a in-game live update feed. Internationally, a lot of people use WhatsApp. Why? I don't, because you can do groups and you can do it, but it doesn't have any scores in it. It doesn't have any updates. So we thought that would be a good idea to make it so that you can, have your friend in your group and chat and do that interactive stuff, post the videos and do all that, but then also at the same time get a notification and an alert when there's a yellow card or a score or a goal or something like that. And we're constantly challenging ourselves and our product team, and we get a lot of feedback from users, as you can imagine, both fans and then our partners, to give us other ideas. We recently added a feature that allows a team to do a fan-featured post, for instance. So if you have a bunch of fans and you are Bayern Munich, for instance, and you want to feature a particular fan who did something cool, you do so, the fan gets recognized, gets noticed, and it's kind of cool. So constantly looking for those more interactive and engaging hooks that we can add into it. And then we're also really a marketplace, so there are a lot of, as Brett alluded to, there's a lot of commerce activity there, one-of-a-kind, unique autographed items, so memorabilia, licensing, merchandising, unique items that we can deliver to a fan they can't get elsewhere is another aspect of that.
And Brett, what's sort of led you to sort of devote your time and resources into a tech company and into the tech space in general?
Yeah, well, Bryan came to me 5 years ago when he and his wife were really this was sort of an idea or brainchild, if you will, and the company was called VFN at the time, and a lot has happened over the years or since then, but it was more or less kind of virtual trading cards was kind of the initial concept, and boy, has it really branched out then. I just thought it was kind of a neat. Well, first of all, he asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. He didn't ask me to develop any software, thank goodness. But he asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. Bryan's background, he's from Oregon, but he actually played baseball at LSU. And so we sort of had something in common with sports and
Small towns.
Small towns, right. And I like Bryan, and I thought, like we were talking backstage, I couldn't tell you if the concept would take off or not take off. I thought it was a neat concept. I thought there was some potential, and I was retired. I didn't have a whole lot else to do.
I mean, going back to the start of it, Bryan, what sort of inspired this idea, sort of other than the fact that there was just an opening for it?
Yeah, I think my athletic background, and I am a sports fan, and I just thought that the general social networks would run their course. No doubt social media, social networks would be around forever. And I just believed that the specificity, interest-based networks would pop up. So if you're into cooking or whatever, now those networks have. And I just thought sports was a natural place for that to occur. And then I knew that guys like Brett had a huge problem, and they weren't monetizing digital and didn't know how to do it. And the existing sports infrastructure ecosystem that's there didn't know how to do it, and certainly weren't going to build what I wanted to build. And my wife and I, we did start the company together. We have 4 kids, and I remember when she was pregnant with our third, I said, well, I can go get a job, or we can do this. And she said, I think we should do this. It's going to be big. That's why I went and got him.
Well, I know we spoke, Brett, backstage a little bit about it, but in what ways does a platform like this, like Score Sports, sort of empower the athlete in ways that maybe weren't available during your playing career?
Well, a lot has changed since I played, and it hasn't been that long, 5 years actually. But I think first back up. I think Score is able to coexist with Facebook and with Twitters and Instagram. It's by no means do we think that we're out with them and in with Score. I think it very easily can coexist, and it has. Facebook is so big, they don't, they're not worried about paying you for posts or selling product or anything like that. But there is a market for that, and for that athlete, Derek Jeter, for example, he may say, I don't, there's no benefit for me, and it may not be necessarily, but there's not a lot of Derek Jeters out there who can kind of just pick their own whatever. It's, I'll do this.
And then Derek Jeters are not born every day, but athletes do amazing things, and the spontaneity that, Odell Beckham is Odell Beckham, a household name because of that. I mean, it happened in a flash, right? Now, how does he capitalize on that? He may not have the career that Brett had. What was it, 12 years?
Who, me?
Yeah, NFL, 12?
That was something like that, 12.
May not, an athlete may not have that extended, time to become a household name, but he or she might do something that's phenomenal, that forever changes the way a house discusses. At least in my house with 4 boys, a lot of sports talk at dinner time. So the ability to capitalize instantly on things like that, I think, are unique.
Well, capitalize on an individual moment.
Yeah.
Capitalize on a career. I think we all kind of can relate to capitalizing on a career, but that individual moment is kind of like a home run you remember, or a slam dunk you remember, or Jim Valvano, going crazy after. I mean, being able to. It's a great memory, but did anybody make any money off of it? Capitalize on it? I think that's kind of where we are today.
And you bring up Derek Jeter. I think we're seeing this growing trend in the sports space and sports media that sort of allows fans more direct access, to their athletes. Chance for athletes to get their message out without it being sort of just completely unfiltered. I mean, Derek Jeter started the Players Tribune. LeBron James has Uninterrupted. In what ways is SCORE sort of building on this idea, sort of existing within it?
So those particular platform things that you mentioned are more long form. I mean, they're tapping into the athlete being the source, or being the creator of the content, the communicator of the content. Sort of this directly from them, cutting out the middleman, if you will, and they can do it quickly on their own terms from their tractor if they want to, and get the message to their fans. They don't have to knock on the door at ESPN or some broadcast network to say, "Hey, give me some mic time," or "Put me on the camera." They can really truly be in charge of the message, what it said, when's it go out, and what's it look and feel like, and then ultimately, if they do want to try and capitalize on it, they're in charge.
And Brett, I know you talked about sort of just the tech space in general, sort of how competitive this sort of field is in trying to break through. What are the main challenges, I guess, you guys have both encountered sort of in just building this from the ground up?
Well, as we said backstage, I think the challenge is Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, the ones that you just mentioned from various athletes. It's let's strike while the iron's hot type of scenario. But again, I think you can coexist. I think what SCORE, and it has grown tremendously in a short amount of time. Will it continue? Well, we sure hope so. And I think that there definitely is a great upside to what we're doing and how we're doing it. But time will tell. But I think we're kind of the first to do what we're doing, and then everyone else, Facebook and the Twitters and stuff, they don't see the need necessarily to compete with what we're doing. They'll just buy us. That's how big.
I think the key word there is compete, and it makes you better, it makes you sharper. Mm-hmm. We are fortunate. We have a very, very clear North Star as a company. Our focus is him, make him smarter, make him better, make him more efficient, and then deliver these opportunities that he wouldn't see without us, and no one else is focused on it. And then keeping knowing who your customer is and solving their problems. And from a fan's perspective, I mean, we've gone to a few signing shows together, and literally, and Brad, and it's any athlete that's got a fan base. Fans love to get close to their athlete. They want to get closer to it. They want the access, and even teams, they want the behind-the-scenes stuff. They want to know what the trainer has to say about Steph Curry's injury. They want to know about the guy that didn't draft Brett Favre, and why didn't he draft Brett Favre, and who was the guy that bet on Brett. All that stuff is just this unquenchable thirst, and keeping the focus on, I think because we're just sports, we're able just to have a very precise focus that gives us a competitive advantage.
Well, just spinning it forward, where do you see it going, in the next year, the next 5 years? I mean, what's next as you sort of take the next step as a company?
Never losing sight of who our customer is first and foremost, and giving fans a great value. But then I think the most exciting thing that gets me up very early every day and keeps me up late is the Internet of Things. I think that how that impacts and comes together inside of a sports environment, an ecosystem like we're building, it's incredible to think what can happen. Now there's chips inside the soccer ball and the foot hits it. How hard did it hit? What's it feel like? What's the haptic, feeling around that? It's, put something on him and have it feed data to the platform, right? That felt pretty good. But getting surfacing that stuff, that data and that content into a way that can be treated as content, man, that's exciting stuff. It really is.
And I know one other thing we spoke about was the idea of balance, and you alluded to it earlier, but in what ways does Score Sports sort of value the balance between user and platform that maybe other similar platforms just aren't really engaging with?
Well, I think the balance in nature is we truly value the rights holder and the owner and the creators of the content, whether it's a fan or an athlete. We truly value that, and we put a high priority on that. We also put a high priority on making it safe, a good environment. The haters and the trolls are just ruining places, and we are aggressively making it a place for him and everybody else to not have to deal with that as best we can.
Okay. Well, I think we're starting to run out of time, but are there any other sort of closing thoughts you have on just where it is now and where we're going?
Well, we have active users in over 200 countries around the world. We do see ourselves as a global business, a global platform, and we're going to continue to scale that with teams and leagues and players unions and athletes, of course, and just continue to become what we hope to be is the biggest platform in sports in the world.
And Brett, I think we'll give you the last word. Any closing remarks?
He never lets me get the last word. No, I second what he said. It's exciting, and most recently we've kind of branched out to involve soccer. And I'll say this: I heard soccer was big, but it is huge. And I'm just it's funny. My daughter, our oldest daughter, is married to a guy from Manchester. So I don't want to sound like an expert, but he has taught me a lot about soccer, and it's big. And to be involved with the soccer side of it has been kind of neat to see. It's hard to believe that something's bigger than National Football League, but this actually dwarfs the National Football League. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, guys, thank you very much for your time. It was very helpful.
Thanks for having me.
A round of applause.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, sure.